We are 2 weeks away from the draft.
Yeah,
right?
less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks now.
Kind of crazy. But you, Matt Brown, you put out a mock draft, our first mock draft on the site, and you got a lot of praise for it. So good job. A lot of people liked it. So here it is, the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles full mock draft. Let's run through this thing. I want to hear why you picked these guys. So all right, so we got Malaki Starks. Malaki, great name, as John Kruk once said.
That is true.
With the 32nd pick, safety from Georgia, another Bulldog coming to the Eagles.
No, yeah. So this 32nd pick is a really interesting one for the Eagles because they can go in a lot of ways. I have Starks getting there, I think, late in the first round. I actually don't know if this 32nd pick would be the one the Eagles take on him because there are a lot of teams that do need safety help. And after the first couple guys, it gets a little tough in the safety room. Nicky Emmanwori is another one too. I think he's probably the best safety out of this bunch, in my personal opinion. I'm not saying he's going to be, but I do think that Starks could be really good for this Eagles team. He's a downhill hitter. He's really good in coverage. I think that's one of his most underrated traits, and people don't talk about that enough. Not only that, but he fits into this core. Obviously, right? You have I think 8 guys that went to Georgia now from the national championship team. It's honestly ridiculous that you have that many at this point, and just keep adding more and more guys. I don't know if you watch the Eagles Unscripted on YouTube.
I mean, I've watched them. I haven't.
Yeah, they just dropped a new episode about like some of the offseason moves they made, and all the Bond stuff was great, and the Saquon stuff too. But one of the things that really stood out to me was Azeez Ojulari literally said, "I want to come to Philly for 1, the culture, and 2, to play with my Georgia boys." These guys are tight. They really are. Like, it's crazy to think that they're as tight as they are. But I think that Malaki Starks is a really good fit for this team. You trade C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You have good secondary help with Reed and Quinyon and Coop. Eli Ricks is another guy that is going to fill in this year for them. He just lost Devontae Maddox. And they're asking a lot for guys like Sidney Brown. And I think that getting another safety in there and just providing more help in the secondary is a really big thing to do at that first pick, because especially after Nick Emmanwori and Malaki Starks, you have like Xavier Watts, who's like a fringe first round picks, early second. After that, it dips a little bit. It dips a little bit to like the Kevin Winstons of the world, who I love personally, being a Penn State guy, but I don't really know coming off an ACL tear if he's going to be that great. You could maybe get him end of the second round. We'll see. But if they can get that Malaki Starks, that would be such a big addition to this team. I just think it works so well. But if they don't go safety, I really think they're still going to go defense at this pick. And they're going to do what their bread and butter is if they don't go safety. And that's edge/defensive line. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Kenneth Grant is someone who's been falling recently in mock drafts, who I think would be really good value at the end of the first round. Could be someone, if Starks is gone, that they could pick. James Pierce Jr. is another guy who's been falling, who is someone who everybody thought could have been the first pick in this year's draft a year ago, and now he is looking like he might not even be a first rounder. He could definitely be someone that they would love to take on from Tennessee. Donovan, I believe it is Ezra Raku. I got to keep remembering these guys' names. They're hard to pronounce, some of them. Another edge from Boston College is someone that you could be seeing in an Eagles uniform. Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. I don't think Shamar Stewart anymore. He's looking like he's going to be a mid-first round pick, but there's about 8 guys right there. Jahan Campbell's another one too, a linebacker, if they decide to go there. But there's about 8 guys who you could see being at the 32nd pick. I personally think with the lack of safety help later in the order or later in the draft, I think you should need to prioritize going safety early on and going defensive back. I think they could find other guys, and I even talk about it later, finding other talent in the later 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. They could fill in defensive line because you have a lot of defensive line in Milton Williams and Josh Sweat to replace. So those are really big things. But at the same time, I think with the lack of safety play and safety players and defensive back players in the early couple rounds, you need to jump on it early. And I think Malaki Starks is the perfect guy for that.
2nd round picks, pick number 64, edge rusher from the Ohio State University, JT Tuimoloau.
Yeah, JT, as a Penn State fan, I have seen this guy play so much. Tuimoloau is just an absolute game wrecker on the defensive line. I'm really shocked that he is going to fall late in the 2nd round, possibly the 3rd round as well. I talked about how he's just not a me guy. He's a team guy. That was his time at Ohio State. He was basically the defensive captain for Ohio State the last couple years. Him and another guy, Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, another guy who I think could be a first-round guy for the Eagles because I think he's seen a lot of big draw from teams like the Lions and the Rams. Definitely someone who they could draft as well out there. But JT is such a great player. He plays fast off the edge. He plays it hard. He's very quick off the ball. He gets in a little bit of trouble with his arm length. That's kind of been the main issue, I think, for him right now. But again, he is someone who, when you throw him into a team like the Eagles, will just adapt to their culture so well. And he has big strength inside. Like, that's been people are saying a disadvantage of him. I think his 6'4", 265, that works so well. And he's a strong guy too. I think you could throw him into Vic's defense very easily, and he could be, I don't want to say Brandon Graham, because Brandon Graham is a great player, but he could be someone who just continues the culture of this team for years and years and years to come. I think he is a really big culture guy, and maybe not someone who you're going to say is a top 10 defensive player in the league, but is someone who will stick around with this organization for a long time and be someone who really just changes the locker room as a whole and keeps that culture going that the Eagles are trying to continue. So I really like JT at this pick. I think he could be someone who maybe not gives you the sack numbers that you want, but will continue to just provide and be depth in this defensive line that the Eagles continue to draft and draft well.
With the 96th overall, Harold Fannin Jr. from tight end from Bowling Green. You've seen a lot of the stuff with Dallas Goedert this offseason. If it could possibly get moved. And, tight ends are available in the first round, but if we're keeping Dallas Goedert around, you got Fannin Jr. here from Bowling Green in the third round.
So I kind of talk about it in there about how I think that this pick comes with a Dallas Goedert trade. And I remember talking about this last time when we were talking about Dallas Goedert. Dallas is a really great player, but it's basically what I said last time, and I said in here. It is really, for him, it's either keep Goedert around and let him walk in free agency and take the comp pick, or trade him now and draft his replacement. Those are the two options they're in. I do think if the Goedert trade happens, it's not going to happen until the draft in 2 weeks, because that's when, kind of like how we traded for DeAndre Swift during that time. I think that teams would trade for Goedert, and you would probably get a fourth rounder for him right now. That seems to be his market. But right now, I think Harold Fannin, even if you don't trade Goedert, is a really good pick. I love Harold Fannin. He elevated his game so much. He could have been at a top Power 4 conference school for his junior year. He decided to stay at Bowling Green because he really liked the coaching there. He really liked the environment. He thought they were putting a good thing together, and it turned him into an absolute stud. He had an insane junior season, not enough for the Mackey. That went to Tyler Warren, my absolute favorite player from Penn State this past season. I love Tyler Warren. I would love for the Eagles to draft him at 32, but I don't think he's going to fall that far. I don't think he's going to pass 14. But 117 catches, 1,555 yards, and 10 touchdowns is insane for a rising 21, 22-year-old. I don't even know exactly how old he is, but the main thing with him is his blocking needs some help, but he has been able to do it as well at Bowling Green. And it's definitely better than Goedert. Goedert, we all know Goedert can't block, and he knows it too. But bringing him in is just someone who could elevate the tight end position for the next couple years, especially on that rookie deal, and be another weapon in this offense. Because let's face it, you're not going to need him to catch 100 balls a season. You're not going to need any tight end you have to really catch 100 balls a season when you have AJ and Devontae to throw to. You have Saquon, who's going to take majority of the plays. You have Jalen, who's also going to run a lot as well. You don't need tight ends. You need tight ends who are able to block for Saquon, at least at a decent level, and to be able to catch checkdowns and catch screens for Hurts. And that's what I think Harold Fannin could be. He's a very, very fast runner. He has great speed. He not only plays with power, but he just plays with accuracy too. Like, he's able to get open and get off routes and just be able to be in coverage wherever he is played, in the slot, on the outside, on the offensive line next to the tackles. So he's a really good player. And I really think that if he were to fall late into the 90s, I think either you could trade up for him, because the Eagles would really enjoy this player. Now, I do think they could also go second round on tight end, because there are interesting guys there too. One of the ones that I think that has been getting a lot of love, I don't think he should be a first round pick, but a lot of people have said Mason Taylor from LSU or Elijah Arroyo from Miami have been discussed as like late first rounds, early second round guys. I would really hope that those guys keep falling in the second round, because if they come available late second, I could see them going there as well. Elijah Arroyo is someone who he feels like the under the radar guy that a lot of these draft guys are saying that he could be a stud. I don't know about that. We'll see. I think he has talent, but I don't see the Eagles jumping on him in the late first if that's really where they're going to be going. I could see them going back second, and instead, depending on how they go first round and how they take their picks that way. But I do think tight end at some point will be drafted in the Eagles draft, and I do think that for the value, Harold Fannin in the third round is a huge value pick, and it's someone that even if they keep Goddard around for the season, could be someone that could turn into another weapon in this offense that is huge for them.
All right, moving on to round 4. First offensive lineman pick for the Eagles for Sacramento State, Jackson Slater.
Yeah, Slater's a really good player. I love Jackson Slater. I've loved this guy for a while now. Ever since I watched him run almost a sub-5 at the combine. He's a strong player. You know, kind of like a Jason Kelce-esque underdog kind of player. He seems like he's not really built to play offensive guard. You know, everybody thinks he's going to be a center. Kind of not like Kelce, because everybody thought Kelce was too small to play O-line in general. But he's a really strong guy. You know, he seems like a great value for a day 3 kind of pick guy. Sacramento State, a lot of people like Sacramento State. It's an FCS school, you know. They're about to be an FBS school in the first place, if you really want to argue with that. But I do think that a guy like Jeff Stoutland could turn Slater, who has very raw potential, into someone who could be a very good piece for this Eagles team moving forward. Now, I don't know how much they're going to lean into offensive line pick this year, because I think they know this, and I think a lot of people have said the same thing. They don't know how much longer Lane Johnson has on the Eagles. It's kind of a year-to-year basis on whether Lane is going to retire now. I think with 2 Super Bowls, it could be any year now where he just decides he's done. He doesn't want to deal with the pain anymore. I do think that he will stick around for this season. Obviously, he's going to be here. And then probably the season after that. After 2 years from now, though, I don't know what it's going to be for Lane. So they're going to start having to look for offensive line help. You have solid foundation pieces. You have Jordan Mailata, who's going to be playing left tackle for the Eagles probably for another 5 years at minimum. You have Landon Dickerson, who's going to be their star guard. And you have Cam Jurgens, who probably will get an extension in the sometime future. You have 3 spots filled. After that, your other offensive line spot, the O guard, and the other tackle spot are going to need to be filled. Tyler Steen and Kenyon Green are 2 guys who are probably going to be the starter this year. But you just want to always keep having depth on this offensive line, because who knows when injuries are going to come up. And you need guys, whether they're young or they're veterans, to step up and be able to play. And I think a guy like Jackson Slater is a really good depth piece for this team. I think Jeff Stoutland is someone who could take a pile of trash, in my opinion, and turn them into an all-pro left tackle. He turned Jordan Mailata, who had never seen a football in his life, into one of the best, not even left tackles, one of the best offensive linemen in the sport. So I really like Slater here. I think he's very raw, and he feels like value, honestly, on a day 3 pick. Because if he was at a bigger school, I honestly think he'd probably be a second-round pick.
Could Jeff Stoutland turn you into an elite offensive guard?
Probably not, because I wouldn't care enough. If I tried hard enough, I think I could. Me being 6 foot probably wouldn't help. But hey, Jason Kelce turned into a Hall of Fame center, so who knows?
Halfback Jaden Blue. That's a fun one. Jaden Blue from Texas.
No, yeah, Blue's got really good speed. Kind of is a Darren Sproles-esque player. You know, he's got the speed, but he lacks the height. You know, 5'9". That's a real question mark. I kind of feel like halfback will be either taken, or you'll see an undrafted free agent halfback that could be signed for the Eagles. That's someone who could start to fill into the next Kenneth Gainwell. Because now with Gainwell gone, you have a little bit of a hole in your Eagles backfield. As guys, Eagles usually like to have a guy who in the Eagles backfield that has been there for a couple years and knows the offense and knows how to, you know, run everything. They don't usually like to just bring in outside guys for the running backs. Like in Saquon Barkley, they have that now, and Barkley and Dillon as the 2 leading guys. And then Shipley, who is in his second year, who still can be pretty good. But I think Blue could just be another chip piece for this offense who could be really good in short yardage, third down back, possibly on halfback screens. And I mentioned it, Saquon Barkley, even with the A.J. Dillon signing, he's going to get less touches this year. So obviously you're going to keep giving Saquon the ball, but you just got to think about health and having depth at these positions, because you really don't want to have to go to your 5th running back on your practice squad to fill in as your backup, or even your starting running back, and we get that far into the scariness. But I think Blue is a really good value piece, especially, I think, honestly, wish he had another year, because if he had another year at Texas, he could have been a really good player in next year's draft. But he's coming out, and I think round 5 is really where you're going to find him. And I think if someone like this falls to the 5th round, I think it's someone who could be really good value for the Eagles.
3 picks later, another Buckeye, Seth McLaughlin, center from the Ohio State University.
Yeah, McLaughlin, I think he is only going to be able to play a center. I don't think he's going to be able to move to guard or tackle or any other spot. And this kind of feels to me as like a possible Cam Jurgens emergency plan, because they still haven't signed Jurgens to that extension yet. I do think it'll get done, because I think Jurgens is a great player, but they need to make sure they have somebody on this roster who could play center. And McLaughlin, coming off an Achilles injury, that was a brutal tear for him late in the season in practice. I think that's a big reason why he's fallen to the 5th round, because he was mocked in about mid-October, like a late to early 2nd round pick, and now he's fallen to the 5th round because of that Achilles tear. This could be someone that they could get value for just by the injury that's going to hobble him. But I do think that this could be a really good pick as an emergency option. Maybe someone that, again, that Jeff Stoutland can turn into a really good offensive lineman. But McLaughlin is a really good player from Ohio State. He was really good at Bama, top center award. I think that could be someone who, in an emergency, if Cam Jurgens his price becomes too much and they can't afford Jurgens, could be someone that could take over if the Eagles do end up grabbing him in the 5th round.
We continue in the 5th round with another kind of back-to-back. JJ, hold on, Pegues, defensive lineman from Ole Miss.
This kid, my God. If you thought Jordan Davis was fun being the big old man, it could just run really fast. This guy is insane. This video from that Field Yates has of him running in touchdowns, actually incredible. He's just a force, dude. Oh, you gotta love him. So good. So good. Yeah, he's right there getting the ball.
Got around about 5 dudes.
He is a monster. I don't think he'd be an offensive guy that they would use. I would love it for them to use him as like a fullback in some sense. Imagine him on the tush push. That would be awesome if they keep doing that. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Pegues, he was a really good player next to Walter Nolan. That kind of helped him. And Nolan is someone who the Eagles could have taken in the 1st round if he ends up falling to them at 32. But this feels like a nice little depth defensive lineman pick. Someone that could replace Milton Williams if they get some good value in the 5th round. I think the key thing they're going to look for in these 5th round picks, so they have a lot in the row. They have like 4 picks in like 4 out of the 160s they have. I think it's 161, 164.
Well, we got I missed something here. We got dealt back-to-back 167. Oops.
Yeah. No, it's all good. But they have like 4 picks in like 10 of the 160s. Do I think they're going to keep them all? Probably not. I think they'll end up trading some of them. They're definitely making trades in this draft too. 100%. This is without trades. I can't really predict trades until they happen. I also don't have insight on that. But I do think they're going to look for guys in these 5th rounds that obviously will be depth, but look for guys who not only fit Vic's system, but someone who could futurely turn into something with development. Because that was kind of the thing with Milton Williams. Milton Williams was just looked at as a depth guy when he was drafted, but he developed so much and much more, and he's turned into a great player that turned him a great contract. That's what the Eagles need to continue to keep doing, is just developing, because they have the stars now. They just need to keep developing and just having depth at each position. And I think someone like Pegues would be really good. Even this last guy right here, Jack Kaiser.
Yeah, Jack Kaiser, Orange Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Over Penn State.
Oh, that's a rough one. Now, Kaiser was all over the field in that game. He was all over the field in that game, but this kind of feels like at some point they're going to take a linebacker. Losing Oren Burks in free agency was kind of left a hole in them. Nakobe Dean's probably not going to start the season out healthy. So it's right now Bond and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who I love Trot, but that's a really tough job for him just to get thrown into a starting linebacker spot. I do think they're going to take a linebacker or sign a big name undrafted free agent, or trade back and try to get someone later in the draft if they feel that someone's available. But I do think some depth linebacker will be taken. And right now, I think Kaiser's a really good player for Notre Dame. Kind of the same way as Tuilamolau from Ohio State. Team captain for the team, brings a great energy, high IQ guy. He was there for 6 years. He's one of the longest tenured guys in Notre Dame history. He really feels like a guy that could just fill in and be like a special teams captain in year 1. maybe not year one, but like year two, and be the guy that could be moving forward for this team. Maybe even one day be the linebacker the Eagles have always hoped for. They have that in Vaughn now, but maybe again they just keep that linebacker tree going and going.
All right, so the full draft from first full mock draft. You can check these out every Monday and Thursday for the next 2 weeks. We will have our mock draft. So we got Malachi Starks, JT Tomalu, Harold Fannin Jr., Jackson Slater, Jaden Blue, Seth McLaughlin, JJ Pegues or Pegues,
Pegues,
and
yeah.
Jack Kaiser. So that is Matt's mock draft. If you want to leave your rating of it in the chat.